Okay, so I don't exactly know how to start this episode right now, so I'm just going to say I'm Jeff.
I'm Jennifer,
And this is a podcast that some of you might even be subscribed to. We call it the Kid Free Weekend, and it's about stuff we do when our kids, who are not always here, are away. We used to talk about a lot of pop culture, and then sometimes politics, and then we started talking a lot of politics, but to make a joke about how it's been a while since our last episode would be a woeful understatement.
well, yeah. I mean, there's just other things. It's always an excuse, but we actually have other lives. Well, I mean, some people sit in a room and do this all day, all the time.
And they get paid for it. We have day jobs and stuff. The reason I'm talking about all of this is, the whole it's been a while thing is that we had been doing quite a few episodes about the upcoming election, and we profiled and interviewed many people that just wanted to talk about their hopes and dreams for the future of this country and what motivates them, in that political manner. And it was a lot of fun. And then, sometimes you just take a week or two off. Let me put it this way, babe. I'm going to quiz you here. The last episode we were talking about the primaries. We reviewed all of the candidates. I believe there were 20 of them. And we talked about who we thought was doing well, who wasn't doing so great, who we liked, who we didn't like. How long ago do you think that was that we reviewed 20 candidates in the election primary for the 2020 elections?
I want to say it was around November.
We just passed by like a week, like a full year. That's how long this shit's been going on. So it feels kind of weird to post a podcast after being away for a year, but I really wanted to talk about this stuff again.
We had to wait and see what was going to happen, and now we know what has happened.
We did. Yeah, well,
That's all we were waiting for, really.
Part of me is glad that we weren't doing a lot of podcasting during the primaries, because it might have gotten grim. I've come to accept where we're at.
It was really just nonsense. All of it was just nonsense. People spending so much money.
Isn't it amazing?
And they could just give that money to people that need it, and it would solve so many fucking problems. Come on. Duh.
Well, part of it is that it costs a lot of money to buy ads, but then part of it is that you also have to pay all the people that are working for you, which is very significant. We shouldn't understate that. That's a big part of running a campaign.
Right.
But each one of these people thought that they had better ideas than the other people. And the process, I don't necessarily mind. The money is often appalling. That's a problem with our electoral system. We could have publicly funded elections. Well, anyway, so life got kind of busy and we took a few weeks off, and then those few weeks turned into a year. We've been podcasting over on the Pod of Thrones feed, where we talk about nerdy TV shows we watch without a whole lot of politics. Well, so the primary season came and went. I was all in for Bernie. I actually contributed some money to the campaign, which I've never done for any campaign before. You donated to Bernie?
I think I gave $50. It wasn't much, but...
I had no idea. Why didn't we talk about this before?
I don't tell you everything.
Were there any? So we liked Bernie. We liked Bernie in 2016.
I like Bernie right now. If I could write him in, I would. That would really mess things up. Don't do that, people.
Do you consider yourself a socialist?
No. I don't need a label to know what's right.
Okay, so what was it about Bernie that put him over the top? Because we talked about, I think we both agreed on, like, Bernie was great, Elizabeth Warren seemed pretty good. We even liked most of what Marianne Williamson was saying, even though every once in a while she'd go off on crystals and UFOs and shit. But she had good ideas in terms of, like, social equality and justice.
Right. That's what I liked about Bernie. But also that he wanted to take on the big pharma. He wanted to take on the big corporations. None of these other people are talking about that. Like, they're not planning on taking on the pharmacies who are charging 10,000% markups. He was the one that was going to do that and to try to get at least on a path to make things right for the American citizens. And he was our only hope. Help us.
Well, that's grim.
Your only hope.
So we didn't post any podcasts during the time when Joe Biden, was he in the race when we last, I don't even know that he was. No,
he wasn't.
But he came in kind of late compared to everybody else. And I voted for Bernie in the primaries. I think you did too.
Yes, I did.
And sometimes me expressing my support for Bernie on, let's say, the Twitters didn't always go very well, because he was very polarizing. There's no question about that. More than anything.
But It just blows my mind. Like we're spending so much money on stupid shit and everybody's like complaining that they don't have enough money. And here's Bernie who's saying, I'm going to help you make things better. I'm going to make healthcare better. I'm going to help people that are in bad situations. And they're like, fuck him. He's a fucking idiot. I'm not going to ever vote for that shithead. What the hell?
I will say there were a lot of people that said that they would never vote for Bernie in a million years. And I mean, more people than I saw that were, Bernie supporters saying that they would never vote for Biden in a million years. But whatever. I mean, okay. So now we were bitter for a while. Maybe there's a little bit of that still around. But ultimately, Joe Biden did triumph in the primaries.
Yeah.
Yep. And he is now our candidate with Kamala Harris.
Because everybody else dropped out because they thought that he was going to be the best person to win over Trump, over everybody else.
Yeah. And I'm still...
That's probably true.
I'm conflicted about that. I mean, he wasn't my guy. He wasn't my candidate. But it is possible, for as little faith as I have in the Democratic Party as a whole. They are often bumbling. Yeah, not a very unified party. But look what happens when we have a perfectly unified party. They're marching in lockstep right behind Trump, and they're marching us into the abyss.
Well, I'm hoping that there are some Republicans out there that are just laying low and waiting for Judgment Day to come so they can vote. I don't know.
Then they'll cast off his orange coils.
I hope so.
I hope so.
I hope that all of these people are meeting in secret. And they're saying, okay, guys, just keep it going until November and we're just going to vote and then it's going to happen. And we let him keep believing that we're all behind him, because if not, things are going to really go crazy.
Well, there are a number of groups of people that say that they are registered Republicans, have voted Republican all their lives, and they are not supporting Trump this time.
You see it every day.
The most famous one now that's risen to prominence is the Lincoln Project, because they have some big name people heading up their operation. But there's other ones. There's like Republicans for Biden. I mean, there are a bunch of these groups that have come together to say, no, thank you to Trump. We'll take Biden. And again, I will say, I'm not sure what would happen if Bernie had been the candidate. Would they be coalescing around him? Like one of the guys who will mock Trump mercilessly, but he's a conservative guy. And I've seen the stuff he said about Bernie in the past, and it was not any nicer than the stuff he said about Trump. So like, I don't know where someone like that would have wound up, but whatever, that doesn't matter. What matters now is Biden is a guy that we do have Republican support for. So he may be our ticket out of Trump town.
God, I hope so. I can't imagine 4 more years. Just like Red Dawn, it's going to be exactly tranks with these tanks rolling down the street, and that's going to be normal.
That's the dream, man. That's the dream for Trump and the people that love him.
And some people even want that.
Right.
You know what? Our streets were not built for that heavy load, so we'll probably be okay.
Oh, like our actual neighborhood streets. Like
right.
Exactly
well, ours and everything else, all the streets are falling apart. You can't have more than, that's why they have the checkpoints with the trucks. So you can only have so many 1,000 tons.
Right. Yeah. So maybe the tanks won't make it into our neighborhood. We've discussed on the podcast before, our exact neighborhood went for Trump in 2016. Slightly. Like it wasn't deep red. It was a very light pink.
Right.
But still, it doesn't make me feel good about our neighborhood.
There are no signs, very few signs this year so far. For Trump in our neighborhood. Yeah,
that's true. I haven't really seen much for either candidate.
I think I've seen
honestly.
one Biden sign.
Now, unfortunately, no enthusiasm for either candidate usually winds up going towards Republicans, because the Republican base is more committed to coming out to vote than the Democratic base is if they are, and swing voters or, no party preference people like us. If they get turned off by a race, then they just won't bother going out to vote. And then, so the committed Republican base usually winds up winning. And that's always been a tactic, at least, throughout our lifetimes. That's been part of the tactic, is to just make people exhausted. And Trump's exhausting.
Everything is exhausting right now. He's exhausting alone. We've got COVID. We've got the stress of no jobs. We've got things falling apart. You lost your job. Right.
You were a COVID layoff.
Yes, I was. Mm-hmm. Am still. They're trying to keep us at the highest level stress so that we don't have the ability to speak up. They want us to feel hopeless.
Yeah, some days it's working.
Every day it's working, but I'm still going to vote.
Well, a few days ago, on a weekend where we had no children with us, a kid-free weekend, you could say, we left our house. Not a common thing anymore.
Hey.
And we live in Orange County, California. That's no secret. And we traveled into a nearby neighborhood, because it might come up here, but Rancho Santa Margarita, like it's South Orange County. So we were going shopping there, and we knew that there had been some activity politically.
Right.
Some people.
We would drive by and see like little pop-ups where
Right.
they were selling either, mostly Trump stuff.
We saw Trump
shirts
stuff
and hats,
first.
right?
Yeah,
And
like,
they're out there, woo, yay, waving their flags.
But then-
no masks.
yeah. Then came the counter to that, where people started putting up I don't know. I mean, not even necessarily pro-Biden, but definitely anti-Trump pop-up. Last Friday night, I was on my way home and I stopped to pick up dinner. And I drove by a Black Lives Matter demonstration in this town.
Mm-hmm. At the city hall, right?
At the city hall. And that kind of blew me away. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like, I was texting you about it, like, as I'm parking the car. And what I saw was a whole bunch of people with signs just sort of chanting and, smiling and trying to be okay. Oh, wearing masks, but I think they were smiling. Across the street from them was one guy wearing a lot of red, screaming, no mask, screaming at the top of his lungs. And I was driving by, so I couldn't really hear what he was saying, but you kind of know
Right.
what he's generally saying, right? But that made me feel good. That provided me some hope. Like, they could only muster one guy, one fucking crazy asshole to come out and scream at these Black Lives Matter people. So that was a good feeling. So the next day we went out and we were kind of hoping that we'd see some more activity, and we did. So we brought our recorder with us, and we decided to see if we could find someone that would just talk to us on microphone a little bit about what they're doing, what's happening, what it's like working in one of these pop-ups. And so we have some audio that I want to play. We'll play little clips and then we'll sort of unpack it.
Okay.
And I'll just say this, we were on an open, like a busy street, a lot of cars driving by, and I was able to mute a lot of that noise at some cost of audio quality. The audio it's a little echoey. But there are still horns honking for the people with the signs. So you're going to hear honking. You're going to hear cheering. Again, I toned it down as much as I could with my meager audio editing skills. I think it's okay.
Okay.
It's listenable.
All right. Let's listen.
So, we met a lady named Karen. When we asked
Right.
if we could talk to someone, we were pointed to.
There was a Karen there.
There was a Karen there. Not a good time to be a Karen.
Right.
Not a great time to have that name. I didn't ask her about that, but
Well, she joked about it. When she introduced herself, she says, "Hi, I'm Karen." I know, right, Karen?
she's not one of those Karens, thankfully. No, she's a good Karen. There's still good Karens in the world. # not all Karens. Okay, so one of the first things that she was talking to us about was her interactions with some Trump supporters. And it's actually 2 short clips that I threw together here. So here's some people that have come by her booth.
A couple of them came over and I said, okay, so if you really want to discourse with me, tell me what you see in Trump. I just want to know, what do you see in Trump? I asked 4 people. This was like a month, when we were here in June. The first one said, none of your business. I said, how can you say it's none of my, you're here. If you're proud, what is it that he does for you? Then I got an F you. Then I got, again, another none of your business. And then at least one person was honest enough to look at me and say, I hate, and they use the N-word. And he's my man. I had a husband and a wife here a month and a half ago, teachers, as we were discussing, and a man came over from the other side without a mask. And I politely said, please step back and put a mask on. If you want to engage in discourse, that's fine, but we'll do it nicely. But put a mask on. And he refused. And I said, back, because you've got to be back without a mask. I'm not going to take chances. And he completely ignored it. So every time he tried to say something to me, I yelled at him, put a mask on. Put a mask on. That was my answer. And then he finally started to like come at me, and I said, please do. Please do. If you're not going to put a mask on, you hit me, I'll see you. I'll see you in jail. He backed up then because one of the girls was filming. I just don't get it. This guy then said, that the teacher that was standing there said to him, she goes, just tell me why. Why do you like Trump? And he turned around and he said, really? Because he can grab women by the cunt. Really?
What the
Really?
hell? Why
That's
would somebody
Trump's man.
want to act like that?
Why would someone want to act like that, babe?
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know why any human being would have the gall or the nerve or even reason to say such vile things. What possesses a person to be so angry that they say something like that?
What really fascinates me is that, I mean, I know people that wouldn't be okay with that kind of behavior, but they'll support him anyway. I mean, I would have a hard time backing anyone if they have Klan rallies devoted to them.
Right. That alone.
I mean, it's
Is-
got to at least give you some pause, right? Be like,
Right.
if these guys really like, some would say, and I think studies have been done to kind of prove it, like there's some latent racism in all of us, right? I mean, we spend a lot of time judging people, how they look, how they talk, how they dress, and that can come out in subtle ways, you know.
Sure.
Even studies of like, oh God, I mean, I certainly can't cite the source, but I know that this was a real thing of like slideshows. Like you sit someone down in sort of a sterile environment and you just show them slides of people. And if it's a white person and you're showing them slides of white people, and then there's a black guy, even if he's in like a suit, like there will be subtle changes to your heart rhythms and stuff.
Why
And
is that?
I wish I knew. I mean, I kind of get it, but I don't get it.
Yeah.
Like I get it, and like it seems
Because
like it's sort of
racism isn't, I mean, so my mom told me once they would be okay with me marrying anybody but a black man. I'm like, why? I think at the time I was wanting to date one or something. At one point they did say it would make your life difficult or something. But
that's fucked up.
yeah.
I
But
saw
other
the
than
same-
that, there was never any talk of color or racism or, you know, my family was semi-educated. So they weren't racist.
Well, your mom is a Democrat and is proud to say it. She always votes Democrat.
My dad was Republican.
Maybe that's why they split up.
Yeah.
Maybe. Politics from however many years ago that would
Yeah.
be. I mean, my parents are split politically. What's weird is like nowadays, at least, I mean, maybe my mom has changed some of her old tunes, but well, so I know my mom grew up with some stuff that's just unfortunate. I mean, she grew up in a pretty white place anyway in Wisconsin, like a small town. But I know she grew up with, because she's talked about this before, like eeny, meeny, miny, mo was not catch a tiger by the toe.
Right. I've heard that.
It was an N-word. And like that was something that was just normal when she was growing up, which I guess when it's normalized doesn't necessarily make you racist, but it probably affects your sort of overall psychology about your worldview.
You're already degrading that person, animalizing them.
Or that group of people. Well, yeah, I mean, if you compare, you know, N-word to tiger, right, it's an animal. Right. But now my mom is one of the more sensible people in my family.
Mm-hmm.
Like
she would never say
she
anything
never
like that.
would have voted for Trump in the first place, and she certainly wouldn't do it now. She voted for Hillary. She's going to vote for Biden, and she's more like Democrat. Like she's not a leftist like I am, but at least we have a decent amount in common in terms of that worldview. And my dad did vote for Trump, and see, now the best thing I can say about my dad is that he has said he might just sit this one out. He's at least saying that he's not going to vote for Trump again because Trump is obviously a nightmare person.
But help everybody out. If he really doesn't want Trump in there, he's got to help.
That would be great. And,
Everybody, don't just not vote if you don't like Trump. You have to vote opposite of him if you want him out.
I can't remember if I talked to him about this since Biden nailed down the nomination. It's been a while since I talked to him about politics. So maybe he's one of the Republicans that could vote for Biden.
I really think that people don't understand politics well enough, and that's a lot of times why they don't vote. You know, they go by feeling also, but they don't vote because they don't understand how politics really works. They're like, oh, it'll all work out in the end. They don't understand that they have somebody else voting for them. If they don't vote and the opposite, whatever you don't want to have happen, a whole bunch of those people vote, that's what they're counting on, you not voting.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to go vote if you don't want him in the office.
Right. And we're at a real crossroads right now. I mean, the mantra is, one of the mantras is, a vote for third party, or not voting is a vote for Trump, right? And that's because of what we know about the way politics plays out, especially for conservative power. Voting. We know, like, the Green Party's not going to win the fucking presidency, but some people want to vote anyway for the Green Party.
And some people don't understand how that affects things. They should be told. Tell them.
Well, look, I mean, I can't do it. Like, there's been part of me that's been really tempted to sit it out because Biden's almost conservative. Like, he's not a left-wing guy, and I am. He doesn't stand up really for my ideals, but we're hoping that we can push him towards that. That's sort of the one hope with Biden.
He knows that's what people want.
We can push him left. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know some people here and there that say they're just going to leave the president part of the ballot blank. Yeah. I mean, and could possibly including my dad. And it's a tough choice. I mean, I've really struggled with it for a while after Bernie had to drop out. I was struggling with that idea.
I know. Yes, of course. I just wish everybody could unify and everybody could say, hey, let's vote Bernie.
That's not going to happen.
I know it's not going to happen, but I wish it could.
He's supporting Biden, even if some of his supporters are not.
I know, because Biden is not a blatant criminal. Trump is doing something illegal practically every day.
Yeah.
Or probably every day.
Well, and law breaking or not, Trump is very much an authoritarian, and he wants to be a dictator. And I think the main reason he wants to be a dictator is so that he won't be able to be prosecuted for his crimes. I honestly believe that.
Yeah, I
think
believe
he
that
didn't.
Too.
We know there's enough stuff that leaked out over time. Like, we know he never really wanted to be president. He was running to increase his profile. He didn't think he could beat Hillary, and he kind of didn't. But he wants to build more real estate. He has deals in Russia and Turkey, and he's trying to grow his empire, possibly also a media empire. But those plans fizzled out when he accidentally won.
Right.
So if he didn't want to be president 4 years ago, he probably still doesn't want it now. It's very stressful.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine? And
there's constantly shit going wrong, in large part right now because of negligence in the first place. But it means the quest for people to get his attention never stops. And he doesn't want that. He wants his 3 hours of executive time to watch Fox News every morning. Mm-hmm. And he probably doesn't get that anymore because everything's so fucked up. But as soon as he steps out of the presidency, he can now be prosecuted, which right now he's sort of shielded from. Mm-hmm. And we know that at least the Southern District of New York has open investigations into him. They've been trying to get his tax returns. They think he's done illegal stuff. And I mean,
why can't they let everybody know?
I'm guessing you just can't. I don't know. I don't know what the rules are for that. But in any case, all of this comes around to his authoritarian tendencies. Like, there's always bullshit about how it's the most important election ever. And like, we hear that every 2 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. But this time, I'm legitimately worried about what happens if Trump gets 4 more years. Because, well, if he gets 4 more years and the Republicans hold on to the Senate. Like, if we were to flip the Senate and Trump keeps his office, then
that might be kind of awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, nothing will happen. It'll be 4 years of stagnation, more likely than anything. But that's better than him completely taking over.
Right.
But with Mitch McConnell's backing, the House can't do enough by themselves.
That man just needs to die.
Mitch McConnell?
Yes. He's
very
so old.
Well, turtles live for hundreds of years. Mm. Someday he'll go back and sun himself on the beaches of Galapagos and fade away, but he's not ready for that yet. But as long as the Senate keeps enabling this motherfucker, he will keep grabbing more and more power. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg ain't going to last 4 more years. That's just not going to happen.
Right.
So
he's already said we need to pack the House. I saw it.
The Supreme Court?
Yeah. I saw it in a propaganda letter that he sent to our house too.
Well, so court packing is actually a very specific term.
Well, that's what he said.
Right. And his accusation there is that if Biden gets elected, and I think it would still require an act of the Senate, so it basically, if the Democrats take over Congress and the executive branch, there is some mechanism that they can use to change the size of the Supreme Court. And so court packing would be, right now, theoretically, there's a conservative majority, right? Like we know, ideologically speaking, it's 5-4 right now. And sometimes Trump still doesn't get his way, which is awesome. Thank you. I mean, I can't believe I'll say thank you, Neil Gorsuch, but because he's not a great guy, but still right now leans conservative. But if you were to increase the size of the Supreme Court to 11 instead of 9, and then, appoint 2 more, left-leaning judges, then you rebalance the court. So that's an option. It's theoretically possible. I don't know. I think Buttigieg was the only one that talked about it in any serious way. I don't think Biden's really aiming for that anyway, but that's what they're accusing him of, is trying to stack the courts.
Yeah.
So the one thing that worries me is what happens if Biden wins. And I asked Karen about that too, is like, what does she think? I'm worried about the end game. There's always talk about what if Trump just refuses to leave office. I don't think the military is going to get his backs because the military leaders are tired of his bullshit. Like, that. Like the generals roll their eyes when he's talking.
Unless he's actually like, I'll give you more money. You just keep,
oh God,
shoveling my shit.
I hope that they cannot be bought that easily. I don't think the military will have his back. I think if he tries to have a tantrum and refuse to leave office, I think he'll be forced to leave office. But I'm worried about what will happen. There was this role-playing game that was performed in Washington where a whole bunch of think tanks, bunch of smart people from both sides got together and played out scenarios of what would happen after November. And it appears that if Biden, they theorize based on everything they know, and they put it all into this role-playing game. They even use dice. It appears based off of everything that they know about how this country is ready to explode, that if Biden were to win and win by a lot, like a landslide victory, things might return to normal pretty quickly.
Woohoo!
But if Biden squeaks out a win, or if Trump wins,
right,
there's going to be violence in the streets.
Right.
People are going to start killing each other.
We should go get a gun right now.
Maybe.
Let's go down to Walmart.
I've been thinking about that a lot. But we don't know how to use a gun. So we're going to have to take classes.
I've used guns before.
You have?
Yes.
I'm learning all sorts of shit about you right now.
You have no idea.
Hot damn, Lurleen. I didn't know you knew how to use a gun. Wow. I did not grow up in such an environment. Yeah. But we know that Trump supporters want violence. They're craving it. And the real truth behind all these protests is that they have been, by and large, very peaceful, except when the police get involved and start beating people. There have been small amounts of property destruction, and some of that has already been proven to not be the actual left-wing protesters, but people trying to cause trouble.
Who proved that? Video
and investigations. If you can get a shot of someone's face and figure out who he is, and there are groups that are very good at this. And we're seeing, there's been shootings in Portland over the last few days. A couple people have died. There's been shootings in Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Right. Close
to my old stomping grounds.
Kenosha.
What?
No, Kenosha.
Kenosha, eh? We don't really talk like that. And it's just going to get worse. It's going to get worse over the next 60 days. And I think it's going to be worse if Trump loses. But if Trump wins, his people will be emboldened. And that's what I wanted to talk to Karen about. And I wanted her take. I'm just looking for anyone that can give me some hope right now.
And do things
for campaign is not promoting negativity. They're promoting let's get together. Constantly from day one. That's all they do.
And I think
unity.
that's the thing with Biden is he has the ability, and he's proven it in the past, to actually have conversations across party lines, not be so divisive. I mean, the weirdness is right now is how divisive Trump's people are. The people that he has in the White House won't even talk. And, and it's, okay, Pelosi is very anti-Trump. She hates him. But you get somebody else in there. She has talked with a lot of other Republicans without shouting them down. She's able to talk and have a conversation with Republicans, because I really do believe there's a lot of, look at the At Lincoln Project. You've got a lot of Republicans that are not Trumpers.
Right.
You have a lot of people in there that are smart, savvy people that want to actually come together and make changes that are going to benefit America in general, not just a few segments of the population. So those are the people and the ones that I'm going to call cowards are the Republicans that haven't stood up to him, that are the ones that will, if he is not reelected, that are going to be the first ones at the forefront to go, oh, I was never really for Trump. Okay, well, I'm sorry that you didn't speak up and have a backbone at the time that Trump was in. You need to go, because if you're not strong enough in your own convictions to be able to stand up for them, you're not the type of people we need in office.
What do you think?
Well, I don't know that she answered your question.
Well, yeah, I guess.
But she's right. I mean,
the thought of people going like, I never really liked Trump in the first place sounds very Hitler-esque to me. Like, I think that happened with a lot of your average run-of-the-mill Nazis of like, hey, listen, we were just following orders, or there was a national frenzy and our eyes were clouded. But I don't know if that will happen at this point. Like, I think, God, I mean, if Trump is able to do whatever he wants for 4 more years, I think there's going to be a lot of pain and misery and death, and some of it street level violence, some of it feds disappearing people. And I think there would be a breaking point where people would go, oh yeah, he was really, really bad. And this is, it would be our new national embarrassment, which for some of us, he already is.
he was, from the moment he became president.
Yeah.
I was embarrassed.
Yeah.
How
A reality TV show host.
it's like people don't think of the consequences when they vote for somebody that grabs people by the pussy. What are the consequences of voting for somebody?
Well, but they didn't care about that. He was tapping into their nationalism. It's that hyper patriotism, right? It's this idea of America first, which doesn't really.
I think they felt like he was their everyday guy. He was going to be looking out for them because he knows what it's like to be a New Yorker and an everyday kind of. He's works with construction people. He played that up so much.
Right. Well, yeah, and he tries to pretend like he's a manly man, even though I guarantee you, softest hands.
Right.
The softest hands in the universe.
Softest hands.
Small, soft hands. Well, yeah, but his thing was like build the wall and lock her up. Like and when you have something that someone can chant, that just helps for some reason.
Right.
That's
and
just
it has
its own.
to be negative.
I guess so. Feel the burn sounded good to me, but the negativity was what people were feeding off of, right? So how did Hitler rise to power? He was giving people something to chant about the return of Germany, but that's because Germany was having a really hard time. They were in the middle of a humongous depression. The economy was in the toilet, and he found a scapegoat. I mean, the playbook is right there. Here we have Mexicans and trans people and anyone that's Islamic. I mean, brown people. I mean, geez, just brown people.
Any shade of brown.
Yeah. While pretending like he's cool with
And
black
others.
people, but like he's not cool with black people. Like there's a lot of documented history with him not being okay with black people.
But he says he is.
But he says he is. But he will verbally speak up against brown people. And what's the difference? I mean, he's giving people something to blame their problems on. The problems that are with America's economy, job market, anything are not because we don't have a fucking wall, and it's not because we let in some refugees. That's not why that's not why you aren't getting health care from your Walmart job.
Right.
And can't take your kid to the doctor.
The big corporations that Trump's giving money to, tax breaks to.
Right. It's the billionaires that control us all. The billionaires that support this podcast.
Not.
Here comes Mads. Oh, yeah.
Well, we did buy our equipment probably from them.
Yeah, some
We're
billionaire
supporting
got
them.
money from us. Yeah. Well, Jeff Bezos for sure. I do have an Amazon account.
I know, it's bad.
I know it's bad too.
We should make our own Amazon.
Sure.
It'll be called,
Yeah.
I'll come up with something. The Sahara or something.
The wide open warehouses of the Sahara.
Yeah.
By
The desert.
arcades. Sure, let's try it. We'll start
right.
it in our garage, just like he did. But he fed off of these. It sort of goes back to what we were talking about before, like the innate fears. Like you probably weren't thinking about a Mexican coming in and taking your jobs or raping your kids and all the other shit he said. But once he says it, and you're fucking miserable because this is a very stressful country to live in.
And you can't get a job.
You can't get a job, or you can't like pay rent because your job doesn't pay you enough to pay rent. You know, all those problems. You have to work 3 jobs, right? Then he gives you something to be hopeful for. He told people coal was coming back, and West Virginia voted for him in huge numbers. Whereas Hillary was like, I'll be honest, coal's not coming back. It's just not. And the reality should be obvious right in front of your face. You know coal's not coming back. But he told you it would. He told you he would help you get your job back and be paid well. And they gave him a chance. They were wrong. Yeah. And I hope West Virginia doesn't vote for him again. But that's how it happens. It's just politicians lying to you and riling you up. And he's very good at riling people up. Mm-hmm. That's his one skill. More than anything. So... yeah, I guess even though I asked her, we didn't really talk about the street level violence kind of stuff with Karen. But what about the Lincoln Project? I think about that too. Like where does that go? If Biden wins,
what is the Lincoln Project?
It's one of the groups of Republicans that are making anti-Trump campaign ads and really hammering him hard to try to get Biden elected. They're more about negative ads than like pro-Biden stuff, but.
If Trump gets elected, they're going to be out.
Well, if Trump gets elected, I guess they'll keep doing what they do. I don't know. But if Biden gets elected, where do they go? Do they become Democrats and follow Biden? And if
you can still be Republican and follow Biden. Why not?
I guess I'm just wondering. Well, because I think they're sort of ostracized from their former party.
They are, and that's why they haven't spoken up.
Well, they're speaking up now. That's why they made the Lincoln Project.
Some.
My worry is that while some of us are trying to pull Biden left, I think they're going to try to pull him right. And I do wonder what our common ground is, because I know that they don't like the thought of socialism, even though they don't know what it means. But yeah, that's one of my fears, is that even if Biden gets elected, will things be okay with them? Will we go right back to being enemies, and then they pick some new divisive candidate to back in 2024? I don't know. Maybe it's not worth worrying about right now. I think right now we just got to get Trump out, right?
Right.
Okay.
And yeah, hopefully.
Right. I'm not going to worry about that.
Okay.
Now, when I passed that Black Lives Matter thing on Friday, I did see 2 police officers observing. They were at a distance. They were actually on the same side of the street as the Trump guy, but they weren't next to him or anything. They were a little further back, just watching. Not wearing masks. Can't really read their faces, though. They were just observing. I don't know what they were feeling at the time.
They were just making sure nothing was going to happen, right?
Yeah, one could assume.
That's what they're supposed to do.
But we did talk with Karen about policing a little bit. I just want to play that clip.
When a 17-year-old can be videotaped walking past police officers with an open gun, shooting 2 people dead, and then walking past those same police officers when people are yelling, he just shot 2 people, and the officers don't do anything to stop him. There's some very, very scary shit going on. That should not be happening.
Where do you fall on the police issue? Like, what do we do? What does police reform look like?
I am really conflicted, because up until 6 months ago, I was definitely leaning on the side. Always when I had a conversation with my children, it was always, most of the police are good people that want to be there to assist everybody. That's really what I felt. Now I can only speak for what I'm seeing here in South Orange County, but what I have visually seen is, after I got spit on doing nothing but standing here, spit on, and then we were actually attacked physically. When I called to make a police report, when the police came, number one, we have a mandate for masks, and I'm a nurse, and I deal with COVID. I see it. So I don't want to hear any of this. It doesn't happen. It's a pandemic, whatever. Bullshit, okay? We're all dealing with it. Plenty of people have given their lives for it. When I have 2 Orange County sheriffs come up to me without masks on, and I say, look guys, I'm a registered nurse, please put a mask on. And they roll their eyes. Okay, that's number one. That's just not a good sign. Number 2, when I see that those same people watch a man come up to a peaceful protest who everything was very positive, everything was great, and a young man dressed in all the Trump regalia came up, interrupted all of us around a fountain, climbed up, got in people's face without a mask, and the police were standing there without their masks on and did nothing to stop him in the middle of a pandemic. That makes my heart skip a beat. That's not an equality. I'm a nurse. I have a COVID patient who's watching Fox. Okay, I know where they live. I know what side they're on.
Yeah.
I'm not taking their oxygen away. I'm treating them exactly like I treat anybody else, and I'm going to make sure and do my utmost to get them healthy again. That's not what the police were doing last night.
You took an oath, and I think police officers do too, right?
Police officers do too.
Yeah.
So that's what I saw. That's scary. What is going on? Because you can't let your partisan politics tell you how to do your job when you are sworn to protect everybody equally. That's an issue. That has to be addressed.
Defund the police?
Well, I don't think everybody knows what defund the police means. That's part of the problem.
Yeah, it's become probably a more divisive issue than it should.
They should say reform the police.
Well, police reform has been a topic for so long.
Okay, so now they're saying since it hasn't happened,
let's make a new term, I guess. I mean, defunding the police. There's a few people that I have talked to about that are at least anti-Trump people, not necessarily Democrats, but that just were opposed to that idea of defunding the police because we need the police. Well, obviously we need some kind of law enforcement. When there is a murder, you want someone to try to investigate it, which incidentally, most of the time, not any results from that. The police typically, I think it's maybe 25% of rapes and murders get solved, right? It's a very low number, lower than you would think based on what we see on TV, right?
Right.
But defunding the police doesn't mean abolishing any concept of law enforcement. Even the people that say abolish the police, some are anarchists, but it's sort of like wiping the slate clean and then starting over. Maybe we give it a new name just to change the air, just to take a fresh breath. But one way or another, defunding the police doesn't mean we get rid of police officers. It means we don't always call them in, depending on what the situation is. Sometimes you just need a qualified social worker or a qualified trained mental health professional to come de-escalate a situation.
Well, you can't. You and I have had this conversation before. If there's a domestic violence thing happening, who do you call? You don't call a social worker that's going to come de-escalate that situation and put them in danger.
Well, if someone is committing an act of violence, then maybe you need someone to come put that person in handcuffs.
Oh, right.
Sure.
So you're saying police have to come to calls that they don't necessarily like getting the cat out of the tree or something.
How about a kid yelling in a classroom? Causing a disruption. We have police officers in schools in a lot of places that will come and drag that kid out of class.
I think the problem is if you drag that kid out of the class by somebody that works for the school or a social worker or something, they're going to be sued by that person's parents.
Wait, if someone drags the kid out of the classroom, then they'll get sued?
Right. So say the principal and...
Oh, I see. If it's a non-police officer.
Right.
Sure. Well, maybe we don't need to drag the person out of class. Maybe we need to try to de-escalate. And then when class is over...
Yeah, I don't know how often that...
talk to that kid.
happening.
Hopefully we can get the parents involved. Well, it's an example. I mean, what if it's shoplifting or George Floyd was killed over the theoretical, and as far as I know, still unproven, passing of a counterfeit $20 bill? Do you need someone who is trained to be a warrior, which is happening more and more now across the country? Do you need someone who's ready for a fight, who has a gun and a club? Do you need that person coming to respond to to a call about fraudulent dollar bill, like a $20 bill?
That's the problem. You never know. You never know when you're going to get your face eaten by the man in Florida.
Well, that was a homeless man that was getting eaten, not the cop. But yeah.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like.
But then you're talking about an act of violence
this
again.
This guy's acting crazy, and then here comes.
Then you need someone to come and tase that
watch guy. Tasers.
The neighborhood watch guy. I mean, that's like George Zimmerman. George Zimmerman shot and killed Trayvon Martin, right? He was a neighborhood watch guy.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
like that guy shouldn't have a gun either.
Okay,
well, fine, but
right, but that's the problem, is that in this day and age, with all the shit that's happening, you never know what you're going to be walking into. Never. Unless it's a call because your cat's up in the tree.
I mean, maybe yes.
There's a coyote in my backyard. Who do I call? Animal control won't come.
Maybe yes, maybe no, but...
Not that I'm calling them police.
But
I'm just ranting.
Damn skunks. Oh, my God.
Calling the police on the skunks.
With a coyote. Nature's trying to kill our dog.
I know.
We can't let that happen. Look, I think there's an argument for you never know what'll happen. And I also think that there's a good argument for like what the statistics actually show about how often people try to be violent with police officers.
Why are people calling the police?
Because they're the only people to call. See, that's the problem.
For what?
Who do you call? If you call 911, like, you know, if there's an emergency or if a crime is being committed, you know to call 911.
Perfect instance.
Yes.
I was out getting boba. There was a fight that broke out in the parking lot right in front of me. They're beating each other with their fists. Who do you call?
Well, you probably called 911.
No, I want to know who I should have called.
Okay. Well, again, you're talking about a violent situation.
Punching.
So you'd probably want
throwing.
someone who could come restrain these people if necessary.
911 would have been the right person.
Well,
to
but
call.
911 could still be the right number to call. But if you're saying, if you're saying there is a fight and people are trying to kill each other in this parking lot, then you activate one type of unit that has handcuffs and maybe restraints and clubs and tasers and all that stuff. But if you call and say, some lady is trying to walk out of the store with 8 bags of bread in her arms and she hasn't paid for it. You could still call 911 and that operator could send and activate a completely different type of unit.
Then maybe they do. They did ask me, are there weapons involved? And I said, yes, they're fists. I said, no, just their fists. But so maybe that was her. Maybe they do. We don't know what they do.
Someone that is related to you that we just had a recent conversation with said that she called 911 because there was some very strange acting person walking through her neighborhood.
I don't know.
And I'll assume for the moment that her story is true. And she said she called 911 and one of the questions that she was asked was, is he black? And she says...
Maybe it was...
Look, I don't know. She had her own theories as to why that question was asked, which is that cops are afraid to come to a call where there's a black person because
they're afraid they're going to get sued or videotaped.
Yeah. Well, my answer was like, what? They're afraid they're going to accidentally shoot him? Like, what the fuck? Like, you just have to not shoot him. That's all you need to do right now. The bar is so low. You just need to not murder the black guy.
Or choke him.
That's all you need to do is just not murder him. And if you're asking that question because you're afraid you might murder him, then you shouldn't be a police officer. You shouldn't even be a 911 operator at that point.
True.
I mean, Jesus Christ.
Did you say that to her? I don't think so.
I don't know if that's exactly what I said, but...
The whole thing was just Yeah.
It was a difficult conversation that we had.
Sorry if you're listening.
Well, she knows it was a difficult conversation.
Yeah.
Like, we weren't quite seeing eye to eye. But I'm just talking about the fact, assuming, I mean, I have no reason to think she's making that up. But so assuming that is exactly what happened, like, you call 911, I don't think they were activating a different type of unit based on, like, the situation. I think they're going to send a cop either way. Based on the color of your skin. But I don't think it's that when you called 911 and you were talking about fighting and she said other weapons involved, I don't think she's going to send one type of officer or the other. I think she just has to have that in her,
Sure,
like when she puts out the call,
Who
like we
knows,
have
though?
a X number situation, you know, a
You
183 and blah, blah, blah.
My point is, we don't know what the police procedures are, and we shouldn't speculate. I don't know.
Okay. I mean, we can say that, but I think we know that we do need people that are trained in de-escalation
Of course.
for all sorts of crimes that are not violent.
And I do believe that some police districts do. I think it varies depending on where you live. Like, I'm sure some police stations and I don't know what they're called, but they're probably great. And they probably promote that because they have great leaders. But
Maybe. I mean,
there
it's
are
all
other
about training.
places
It's all about leadership. I mean, it depends on who your sheriff is that's
Right.
like sort of controlling that
if
area.
your sheriff is like, yeah, go kick their asses.
It still
what they're
takes a
gonna do.
certain mindset to be able to do that. But like Minneapolis is a very blue city, and yet their police department as a whole was known for having a lot of violent and racist incidents prior to the George Floyd situation. That's why the protesters burned down an entire police precinct. It wasn't just for George Floyd. It was because it was a lot of pent up anger coming out finally. And they said, that's it. We just don't want the police anymore. So we torched their place. I mean, bad actors can infiltrate. We know that Los Angeles is kind of the same thing. Like there is documented proof that certain precincts have been infiltrated by white supremacist gangs that have formed within departments and are running their own little side police forces.
There's proof.
And there are cops that are not part of that, and they are excluded and they are watched. And if they speak up, bad things will happen.
I just can't. It's like a movie. I can't believe it.
It is. And I think it's because a lot of us can't believe it that it still continues.
I don't
because
know.
it's so crazy sounding.
It is crazy sounding. There cannot be that many bad people.
But
What's the fucking point of living if you are so angry?
there's a plan.
Die.
There's a plan there. I mean, organized crime has infiltrated
What?
police organizations before too.
What is the
and
plan?
It's because you need someone on the inside so you have power, or you can enforce laws a certain way. Like there is a lot of motivation for KKK members to try to raise from within their own members who will seek out positions of authority and keep their noses relatively clean so that they can then exert authority against the bad people, the wrong people.
I don't know.
It is a thing. And there's again types of police officers that really want to serve and protect, and there's types of police officers that like having authority.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't doubt that all police officers like having authority. That is the type of personality that they look for, but they also have to have compassion and feelings instead of just anger and, brute force, guerrilla war, they have to be a human being. And we're not hiring people, I guess, that are human beings if that's how they are. I don't know. That's what else did Karen have to say?
So we were talking to Karen. We asked Karen her opinion if we should go across the street to the Trump booth and talk to them. And ultimately, our decision not to do it, we were really on the fence, and we almost stopped and talked to them. We even went and got some boba and then considered the situation and then drove back around again. And
None of them had masks.
None of them had masks on, and that was really bugging me because, right at that point, I probably can't have a reasonable conversation with these people.
Right.
But I still want to try maybe one of these days because we're coming up on this election. I really just want to get inside one of their heads and just try to figure it out.
And my issue with not stopping was I would get so angry that I just don't think that I would be able to ask them questions that were bipartisan, that I wasn't leading. I don't know. I just felt like I couldn't be. Reporters are supposed to be like neither side.
Well, which is not us.
It's not us, right? So I didn't feel like I had the right place to do that.
Yeah, maybe. But I would love to ask just a few probing questions to try to figure it out.
Well, maybe somebody can call us.
But sure. If you're a Trump supporter and you're listening to this,
Yeah, let's try to have an
drop us a
even
line. We'll
killed conversation. I'll step out of the room if need be.
okay. I might be better at keeping my cool than you. You're right.
You are.
So we were asking Karen about that, and she we got a little bit more about some of her attempts to converse with Trump supporters herself. And I thought we could take a listen to that.
I've asked people, do you believe, I asked the gentleman last night, I said, so you're a teacher, do you believe that a country is made better when all of its citizens, constituents, are educated? Do you believe that will make for a better country when people are educated? And he said, of course. And I said, then can you explain to me why Betsy DeVos, whatever her name is, why that is an adequate choice, somebody that does not even believe in public education, that wants it to be for-profit charter schools, why that is allowed? She's never been a teacher. She knows nothing about education.
Yep.
And so he just looked at me. And I said, okay, so let's start on number 2. Do you believe that the environment should be protected? And he goes, well, yeah. And I said, okay, then can you explain to me why it's a good choice for the top guy from Exxon, that he should be put in charge of the EPA with everything that Exxon stands for, and has not cared about oil spills and everything else, and that now they are trying to dismantle all of our beautiful untouched areas in order to oil and fracking. Can you explain that to me? He goes, well, I'm like, because it comes down to for-profit schools money, and we don't give a shit about the environment as long as we can get our oil and our money. And Exxon has now been dropped off of the Dow the day before yesterday. Exxon is no longer part of the Dow.
Right.
So it's like, you see this happening. The rest of the world is going to different forms of energy, and we better, before we reach a tipping point that's ridiculous. But they don't see that. And they literally intentionally turn a blind eye because they don't want to be educated on it. They just don't. I am not saying that the Democrats have every single answer, but I'm saying that this has to be a starting point to change what is going on now.
Yeah, I guess she really
Hit the nail on the head there.
Right, that last part especially. I mean, the examples of, like, if you ask a probing question, they don't really have an answer, right? Like, yeah, Trump's pro-education, and so am I. Well, yeah, Betsy DeVos is a nightmare person that hates education.
She's defunding schools.
Yeah, and she's like, pro-guns in schools. Like, it's arm the teachers, and just not good. And charter schools, there are examples of charter schools being very helpful for people and communities, but they also can be just fraudster, money grubbing, operations. But that's her leaning. But what she said at the end there, I don't think the Democrats will have all the answers, but it's a start. And I guess that's where I'm at right now.
Right. We have to stop the chaos. That's it.
Yeah. That would be nice.
I can't.
To just be able to take a national deep breath like that.
Right. That is literally, that just made me realize from the moment he became president, I have felt that weight on my shoulders and that stress, just underlying stress the whole time. And me just now thinking about him being gone, I felt it like lighten all of a sudden. And then it came back because I realized it's not happening yet. I've felt that scared. I've been frightened, stressed, sad, anxious, everything. So it needs to stop.
When he got elected, we were in mourning, and it wasn't like there are a lot of people that were scared. Yeah. For a wide variety of reasons, religion, skin color, and so on. And we're white middle-class people living in Orange County, California. Like,
we don't have much to be afraid of.
Right. I knew that like his tax cuts would benefit us and like all this stuff. I wasn't going to vote for him because he's a monster. Like, we were in mourning because of other people. Like, we knew we were going to be okay. And except for now your layoff, we have been, and we're getting through. Well, it's kind of his fault. The inattention to the coronavirus, which actually brings us to our last segment. We've been talking for a while now. The last bit I wanted to play of us talking to Karen, as she mentioned earlier, she's a nurse.
Right. RN at a hospital that I had my surgery, my major spine surgery at.
Oh, yeah, when you got your neck.
Yeah.
Those of you that have been listening to us for a long time.
She might have even been my nurse. I should have asked her.
Good question. Dang it. Well,
She
maybe
did seem familiar.
Maybe we'll see her again.
Yeah.
And she took, as she said, she has an oath to uphold, and she will treat everybody, even if they are Trump supporters
Right.
or racists
even if they're
or Nazis.
spitting in her face.
Right. Like skin color doesn't matter. If you have a swastika tattoo on your chest, she's
Right.
still going to try to keep you alive because that's the
That's
job
her
she
job.
signed on to. But anyway, she had some stuff to say about coronavirus, and I feel like we don't know many people that are actually boots on the ground, medical professionals. And in this case, seeing patients, treating
Right.
patients. So I just want to play this one last clip.
I will tell you, I used to love to go to work. It sucks wearing an N95 13 hours a day, but you do what you got to do.
Right. Thank you for doing that. by the
That's
way.
all right. I mean, I literally, it's like, okay. And these people that say it's only, a lot of the Trumpers are, they're like, it's fine if it's just, it's only old people that are dying in
Right.
sniffs. They're going to die anyway.
Right.
Okay. It's about between 45 and 60% over the age of 75, say.
Yeah.
Okay, that's only 45. There's a huge another number. And when I'm looking, and we've had the fewest in the memorial system, but when I'm looking online and there is a 33-year-old woman who is post 10 days COVID positive, and she'd had mild symptoms at home and suddenly has to get rushed to the hospital with 3 pulmonary embolisms
Ah,
and is intubated. We've had stroke patients down in their 20s now because of the coagulation issues with COVID. People don't know this. And and now we're looking at people that are supposedly recovered. When you see the numbers recovered, you have no idea how many of those recovered people can't walk from here to that corner now without oxygen, but they're considered recovered.
yeah,
They're
right.
35,
Once
they're
you're clear,
40.
there's still lasting effects.
Yes, lasting effects. And now they're looking at the myocarditis, the heart, the pericarditis, the myocarditis, which is being shown in like 60% of the people that had to be hospitalized. Their hearts are enlarged. We don't know if it's permanent. We don't know if it's not, but they're not in a good place right now.
It's good to end on a happy note, right?
I believe I was reading the other day that there was also some brain changes, like encephalitis type stuff happening, fluid on the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's scary.
Your blood pressure drops. There's coagulation issues that can cause strokes and other, embolisms and problems. But only in a certain small percentage of people. And that's why it's one of those things, like unless it happens to you.
Well, yeah, but a lot of people's mindset is there are too many people here anyway.
Part of me agrees with that. Like
I agree
we
too.
don't need more population on the planet. We
I
could do
feel
with a little
like-
decrease.
I feel
But this
like I
is-
have said stupidly in the past, we need a pandemic.
Have you?
Now I feel pretty guilty.
Yeah, see, this isn't how I'd like a population decrease. I think I'm just like millennials
I like
apparently
I like
aren't having a lot of kids.
The
You're snapping or jazz. You like
Ragnarok.
jazz? Ragnarok.
what's his name?
Chris Hemsworth?
No.
What are we talking about? Oh, Thanos just
Thanos.
snapping half the people out of existence?
Yeah, that no pain, just cheek, they're gone. But he needs to actually wipe the people's memories of those people that are gone.
Yeah, that was a bummer. There was a lot of mourning. But I just think if millennials really aren't having as much sex and kids, I think that will be okay for a generation or two. We will be fine. It's okay. With more automation means less jobs. So it's okay if we have less mouths to feed and less, people that worry about, welfare costs and all that stuff. Like if you're concerned about that, then you should be okay with maybe people not having as many babies, but this pandemic of suffering and then mourning to go along with that and all the stress and being inside all the time. Like I miss having friends. That's not the way we want a population decrease.
No, but this is
No,
the
it's
way
no good.
our futuristic shows have always said
Mm.
things are going to be.
Thanks to Karen,
Thank
the
you
nurse,
very much
for
Karen.
talking to us. I hope that we will see her again. We'll keep an eye out for some more of these events and try to
Go
be a
support.
presence. Yeah, go support them. Maybe even on a kid full weekend. I was thinking maybe we could get some of the kids interested in holding a sign or two and trying to get people to honk for justice.
Maybe, but I worry about safety
Well, we'll keep them back away from the curb a little bit.
and spreading the virus.
And they'll wear masks.
All right, we'll think about it.
We'll
I'll
think
talk
about
about it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I figured we'd ask the kids, not just like, be
You're
like,
coming.
hey kids, we're going to get donuts. And then, why are you bringing poster board? No reason. And markers? No, it's fine. It's all part of the donuts. Although if we bribe them with donuts,
I'll go.
that'll
They
help
would
get them
like
out
to
of the
go
house.
anyway. I just worry about their safety.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're at least raising our new generation with some decent ideas about how the world should be. Yeah.
Yep.
And we'll talk more about that soon. We've been talking for a while. So we're going to go until the next opportunity, which I want to do a lot of these. I don't want to wait another year before we record a podcast. I want to keep talking about this stuff. So let's do it.
Okay.
All right. We'll find some more people to talk to. We'll hear their ideas. Maybe we'll even talk to a Trumper. Maybe
We're going to try.
Oh, here's a high note we can end on. Here's a guy I want to talk to. There was a whole little side conversation happening in that last clip, and it might be hard to hear, but I'm just going to play. It's like 3 seconds of audio. Let's see if you can hear it.
Okay.
See if you can hear it, babe. And you, audience listening.
3 pulmonary embolisms
Ah,
and is intubated. We've had stroke patients down in their
Did you
I
hear
can't
that?
hear anything.
It's this guy in the background, and I got distracted while Karen was talking because I was like, I want to talk to that guy too, but he left. But he was trying to buy like a sign, and maybe he bought a shirt from this booth. And at just before he leaves, he goes, "I'm a registered Republican, and I'm not going to vote for fucking Trump." Like that guy is my new
Yay.
hero.
We've heard of a lot of people like that, thankfully.
Sure, yeah, there are, because Trump's just taking things too far.
But then again, we're in our own little world. It's not like we talk to a whole bunch of people that are assholes.
We don't know many
Assholes.
out and out racists, although we do know some.
We know some, yes.
Yeah, and those people, you just can't change their hearts. But
We try. You can always try.
my feeling has always been every generation is a little bit better.
I feel that way too, yes. And this generation that's coming up is so accepting of everything. I feel like race is going to be way down there on the...
And there's still
Totally.
bad ones. I mean, that Nicholas Sandman kid, fucking,
I don't know who
and
that
the
is.
kid that just shot 2 people in Kenosha.
Yeah.
Like there are still bad actors in the up and coming generation. There's,
course.
there's authoritarians and thugs,
But let's think
but
about
the generation's more accepting.
it's a psychological thing. If you're going out and shooting people, you have a psychological problem.
Yeah, there's something wrong with you.
Right.
And to be able to go home and go to bed afterwards. I mean, that's partially the cop's fault, but also just the fact that he could stroll away and be like, all right, I guess I'm leaving.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yes, he was.
All right.
He was.
Well,
he was
so
raised
now
very
now
bad.
we're back on a down
Oh,
note.
damn it! All right. That guy's not going to vote for fucking Trump, and
If
neither
you're a
are we.
Republican, please, if you want the chaos to end, Biden will just he'll be bland. He'll be vanilla.
Great. So, hey, listen, if you want to talk to us, if there's anything we got wrong, you can always reach out. We have email, thekidfreeweekend@gmail.com, or you can find us on Twitter. You are
I am at
what?
the Kid Free Weekend.
Nope.
I'm the Kid Free Weekend.
Nope.
No, what am I? I don't know. It's been so long.
You're on Twitter, just at Kid Free Weekend.
That's what I said. Oh,
You said at the
Free
Kid Free Weekend.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
sorry. Mm-hmm.
that's too long. It didn't fit in a Twitter name. So you're at Kid Free Weekend on Twitter. I'm at Pot of Thrones, the name of our other podcast. You can also find us there if you like to watch a lot of nerdy TV shows. We're watching as many as we can find time for. So reach out. Let us know. Did we get something wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Did we get something really right? Are you a never Trumper that wants to talk to us? That'd be cool. Are you a Trumper that wants to talk to us and try to explain how in any way he's making America great? That would be interesting.
Yeah, I agree. And speaking of shows that we watch, and this kind of ties in with everything that's going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
Totally watch HBO or not. It's called Lovecraft Country.
It's HBO.
No, I was going to say HP Lovecraft Country.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's Lovecraft Country. That's really hard to say.
Okay. Lovecraft Country.
Lovecraft Country.
It's on HBO or your HBO Max app or any other of
It's
the
a great
many
time to
apps
watch
you've
it.
had at HBO too. Yeah, it's it's a lot of mystery and supernatural stuff, but it's also a lot of
historical race.
There's a lot of
stuff.
historical race stuff in it, and a lot of it just doesn't feel like anything's changed. So it's really interesting to be watching that right now.
Yes. Highly recommend it. And then come listen because we're talking about it.
Right. We're breaking down each episode.
Pod of Thrones.
So join us on Pod of Thrones. So until we meet again, everybody, just remember that guy and never, ever vote for fucking Trump.
Ah, blah, blah.